Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. I'm still here as a guy that writes and records podcasts for a living. I was self-isolating before it was even cool. But as regular listeners will know, I have taken it upon myself to try and share stories of hope, positivity, and offer solutions, and try to keep everyone smiling throughout the next couple of weeks. And if your partner usually listens to this podcast on their commute to the office and is now forcing you to listen to the podcast saying, hey, this is the guy I listen to on the way to work, and you're sat there thinking, will you just shut up? I apologise upon their behalf. But seriously, I am excited to get today's guest onto the podcast because we hit it off instantly. And despite him being locked down in Chicago and me here in the UK, we both just kind of connected and we're laughing before, during and after the recording of today's episode. So here's Johan Boström. He's a senior business leader with over 20 years of experience leading international technology companies. And he's also one of the founders of a company called INRiver. And before founding INRiver, Johan held leading positions at DDMM, Sema Group Consulting and UDK. But I don't want to reveal too many spoilers about him or INRiver and the work that he's doing there. So let's just dive straight in, shall we? So let me beam your ears all the way to Chicago and we'll speak with him now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
I am one of the co-founders of INRiver, and I've been in the e-commerce space for, I would say, as long as I've been actually working, since the early 90s. Been helping customers to become more digitally savvy across the board, from document management solutions to then e-commerce, CMS, and now product information management. So I've been around from the days when we had to distribute the content on CD-ROMs to the world we live in today with a SaaS-based multi-tenant solution. So I sometimes feel old when I say that.
No, I remember those days well. Remember when you used to open a magazine and like 6-7 CD-ROMs would fall out of it?
Yeah, with all the freeware and everything. Yeah, those were the days.
The days where you could leave your home.
that too, yes. Fortunately, we have SaaS-based solutions today, so we don't have to right now. So we can stay effective and keep our customers happy, even though we're in the lockdown here in Chicago, where I'm working from.
Absolutely. And after doing a little bit of research, I quickly learned that INRiver speeds time to market, increases selling days, reduces return, and also improves customer experiences. So you tick all the major boxes there. But can you expand on the kind of problems you solve for your customers and what makes you different from all the other solutions out there?
Absolutely. So what we basically do is that we put in a solution that creates a content creation factory. So if you look at most companies today, they have an ERP system to manage their orders and their SKUs and their logistics and stuff like that. And they might have a product lifecycle management solution where the engineers are working, creating the drawings and all that good stuff. Now, what you will find upstream in those systems is not nearly enough for a buyer to make a buying decision. So what we do is that we take that bare bones SKU with the item number and the cryptic description in 30 characters uppercase, and we move that through a workflow where we see to that the digital assets gets created, where we see to that the copy is written, where we see to that the specification data gets in place, and of course then help our customers to distribute this to marketplaces like Amazon, retailers like Home Depot, and of course to their own channels like their brand websites and commerce initiatives. And of course, also still today, we help them to do print. So the catalog's not dead, it's just different. So we basically distribute this to all their channels in a fairly automated way. So we cut the time to market as a consequence, of course, because it moves much faster through the process. We increase the content quality so that we lower the return, so that we don't send the wrong product or sell the wrong product to the customer. As we free up loads of time and resources, we make it possible to tell a more compelling product story. So our customers can spend more time with their content to see that it actually really converts. And of course, in the B2B space, there's also a huge aftermarket need, so we can help them support their customers better and help their customers to self-service. So there's a lot of stuff that you get out of INRiver. But basically, like you say, we tick most of the boxes. It's really a great ROI in a PIM solution.
And you did mention a few moments ago, you're locked down in Chicago. I'm locked down here in the UK. And I suspect that people listening all over the world are in the exact same situation. And we're all in this period of uncertainty together at the moment. So I've got to ask, what are the biggest challenges for both yourselves and your clients at the moment?
Well, I think the worst thing for most of us is not getting the social interaction that we usually get going to the office. I think that most of us are social animals, and we really want that interaction. And it's not the same. We're using Microsoft Teams and other tools to meet both our employees and our partners and our customers, but it's not really the same. So I think that's the biggest difference from my perspective. We're fortunately a very digitally savvy company, so we don't end up losing production out of this. We have business continuity plans that kick into action when stuff like this happens. So there's no interruption to service, and our support and everything runs as usual. But without the customer interaction that we normally see when we actually do like to go out and meet them, as well as talking to them on the phone and via Skype.
Excellent. And of course, for a lot of people listening, they are going to be feeling a little bit overwhelmed with everything right now, especially in a world where we're locked in our homes watching rolling 24-hour news channels, which seem to just exacerbate that fear. So for those people, I do try and deliver a more hopeful, optimistic, and provide solutions for people listening. So how do you remain optimistic and approach the challenges that you're going through at the moment?
Well, I think I'm born optimistic, so
yeah.
I see an opportunity in the challenges here. I know that some industries are hurting a lot. If you're working at a hotel or at a restaurant or a bar, that's not an easy situation right now. But for most of our customers that are manufacturing, brand owning customers, they can actually use this time to optimize their internal processes, to optimize their content, to see to that they're ready to meet the market demand that will return. Because the only thing we know is this is not going to last forever. And when the dust settles, there's going to be huge pent-up demand. So just see to that you get ready and use this time wisely, and you're going to come out stronger. But you can't sit still and just wait, because that's just losing valuable time. I think that there's always an opportunity in every downturn in the economy if you use it wisely. And those who do will be very successful coming out of this crisis. I'm sure about that this time, as I was in 2008. It sort of history repeats itself, doesn't it?
It really does. And when you reach a certain age, it just seems that everything moves in cycles. But if we were to put all that to one side at the moment, just focus on the B2B e-commerce area, how are you seeing that change and evolve?
Well, it's changed immensely the last, say, 5-6 years. When we started INRiver, we mostly had B2C companies as customers, mostly retailers that were what we then called multi-channel. That has shifted from being the major part of our customer base to a B2B customer base, where most of them are branded manufacturers, or they are working with selling through a dealer distributor network. And as such, they are actually responsible for their product content. they're not just responsible for the physical product, they're actually as responsible for its content, its documentation, to help and support the buyers in a way that means that they get a good experience. And when you look at the experience, it's often, I think, a misunderstanding that it's only important when you're looking at the shopper in the store. But it's equally important for a B2B company. And especially if they want to keep their customers, they need to keep them happy. And a good experience for a B2B buyer is a frictionless one. They don't want a gazillion banners in their web browser when they're trying to find a part to solve for a problem. They want to get to that solution quickly. And the better you are at guiding them quickly to the solution of their problem, the more they will like doing business with you. And especially as the buyers are young today. It's not the baby boomers that are buyers anymore. It's the millennials that are coming in, and they're born digital. So if you want to make them happy and have them buy from you and keep them as happy customers, you got to be able to help them to self-service, because they really don't want to speak to a sales guy anymore. They want to do this themselves via preferably actually a phone. So that's a very big shift. And that shift also means that it's shifted for INRiver as a company. And what we do today when we cater to the B2B customers is what we actually learned about B2C. And a lot of the features that we develop for B2C is now asked for by our B2B customers that want to get better at merchandising and telling better product stories, because they have been lagging behind the B2C the B2C players, but they're catching up, and they're catching up quickly. And I actually am really excited about some of the stuff that our customers are doing, because it shows that even 100-year-old industrial manufacturers can actually become digitally savvy, and they can do it pretty quickly, actually.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I have been reading more and more about how technology is not just disrupting the DTC space with retail e-commerce companies, but also old, slow-to-change industries like industrial manufacturing. Is that something that you can expand on and maybe comment on the kind of things that you're seeing there?
Absolutely. One of the things that I've seen is also a shift in how products are bought and sold, in the sense that products tend to be more configurable today than they used to be. So whether you're buying welding equipment, or you're buying a crane or a hoist or a forklift, you can configure it in many different ways. And it's actually mind-boggling how many permutations you can get out of a few pieces of customization. So that's this thing that we see that's really driving a lot of this change. So when we look at digital transformation, or whatever we choose to call it, in itself, that's just a means to an end. It changes the whole business model, because if you look at, you want to help your customers to customize and self-service, you probably need to actually manufacture it differently too, and you have to distribute it differently, and it changes your dealer distributor network and how you engage with them and how they engage with the end customer. So I think it's really exciting. I prefer working with those kinds of customers, because they have more interesting problems to solve for, but also more to gain than a typical retailer. It's more interesting to help someone figure out how to very complex non-linear configurations simple. That's it. Sort of gets me going more than helping someone sell a T-shirt, because that's fairly simple.
And with such a vast amount of solutions and technologies in that MarTech stack at the moment, can you offer any companies across all industries, verticals and scopes, maybe a few tips that you think that they should be prioritizing, especially as this is the moment, like you said, we shouldn't all be sat here doing nothing, waiting for things to pick up. What should they be prioritizing and working towards, do you think?
Well, the first thing is, of course, that you got to know your customer. If you don't know your customer, you are not going to be successful. And so if you don't have a good CRM or a CRM strategy, you better get going quickly. And you need to figure out how to learn things about these customers, to get to know them when the sales guy isn't interacting with them anymore. So the digital channels need to feed you with information about the customers, you can target and personalize your interactions with them. So I would start from the customer perspective. And then, of course, the customer needs to buy something from you. So then the PIM comes into play. You need to be able to marry the right customer with the right product and the right content in order to make that work. The third thing I think is really key, especially for B2B manufacturing, is aftermarket. One, of course, is that you want to sell more parts and accessories and service offerings to your customers. But as I mentioned, they also want to self-service. So the customer service and support function is also really key to figure out how to do well. And if you have the customer data and you know your customer, you have pristine, perfect product content that you can present to the customer, and at the same time support them digitally through the whole life cycle, you are going to be successful. But those three components are the ones that we typically talk about with our customers.
Now, although the coronavirus has caused mass quarantines and social distancing right across the globe, making many feel isolated as a result, what I am hearing more and more about is stories of togetherness. And I think those kind of stories need to be heard. And the reason I bring that up is I did notice that you featured a few of those stories on your company blog. Can you share a few of those with me today for anyone that's not seen those?
Well, there's so much, positive things that happens when we get into hardship and problems like we have today. I just saw, I don't know if that was mentioned in our blog post, but did you know Absolute Vodka comes from Sweden? So they of course manufacture ethanol. That's really their key product, right? But that's also the key product you need for hand sanitizer. So they stopped doing Absolute Vodka and started doing hand sanitizer instead. I think that's a really great story where you can quickly take something that is basically unnecessary, but maybe fun and nice tasting, and produce something that's game changing for the hospitals and others that need it out there. So when we talk about social interactions, we always, on every Wednesday morning here in the Chicago office, we have a Wednesday morning breakfast where we all get together in the kitchen and share stories and have fun. We can't do that now because we're not allowed to. So my co-founder, also a Johan Boström, he came up with the idea to do that virtually. So now we have our virtual Swedish fikas using Microsoft Teams. And that's actually really fun because people come up there, and show their pets and a lot of other stuff. And it's actually a good way of doing it. It can't replace our kitchen, but it's really a great way of socializing with the whole team in the situation we're in right now.
Love it. So many great stories there. We need to hear more of those. Now, I know we are in a period of uncertainty and everybody's future plans and strategies are possibly on hold for a lot of companies at the moment. But what's your primary focus at INRiver over the next 18 months? Is there anything you can share with us about the direction you're going to be taking?
Well, I mean, we've always been working in a fast-moving market, and that means that we got to reevaluate our strategies basically every 12 to 18 months, at least. So we are doing that as that's sort of a built into the company, but we're doing that a little more thorough this time so that we can come out both guns blazing when this is over. We really have no plans whatsoever to stop moving forward. Actually, we're looking at this as an opportunity to move faster. So it's really about, like I mentioned earlier, to use this time wisely. And we are fortunate in so many ways, but one of them is that we're digitally savvy. The other one is that we are a SaaS company. So we are on a subscription model, meaning that our cash flow still exists even though sales might go down, because sales is going to go down in this uncertainty that we're in. But that's easier to cope with a SaaS business model than it is when you have to sell new licenses every quarter in order to to have cash flow. So I think we're just very fortunate to be in the position we are in, and we are going to use this time to be stronger and build more and better product. I think that is the only way of looking at situations like this, because the dust will settle and the business opportunities will return. And the ones that have spent the time wisely will be the ones that can benefit from it.
I completely agree with you there. And for anybody that wants to find out more information about INRiver or contact your team, if they've got any questions, can you just point them in the direction before you go, and how they can get hold of you guys?
They can either reach us through our contacts form on www.inriver.com. Or if you want to reach me direct, it's Johan, Johan Boström, Bostrom at INRiver.com.
Excellent. Well, I've loved chatting with you today because, like I say, I think there is so much hope and optimism out there at the moment. And I just cannot thank you enough for taking the time to come on here, share your insight, share your expertise and a few solutions too. So thanks again for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Now, although there was a lot of laughs in my conversation with Johan today, I just loved hearing about how B2B e-commerce is changing and how technology is not just disrupting that DTC space with retail e-commerce companies, but also those old, slower to change industries like industrial manufacturing. And also, with such a huge amount of solutions and technologies in that MarTech stack, I thank him for just offering companies across all industries tips around things that they should be prioritising. But now, of course, it's time for me to turn the microphone over to you. So please let me know your thoughts, tips to stay sane when trapped indoors, pics of you in your home. Whatever it is, it's time, I think, that you introduce yourself. You hear me talking every day, but wherever you listen to this podcast, I want to hear from you. This is your call to arms. So please send me a pic of where you listen and let me see the world through your eyes, not just these four walls. And maybe, just maybe, we can keep each other sane. How does that sound? Well, okay, good answer. My email address is techblogwriter@outlook.com, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Just look for me at Neil C. Hughes. And my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. But now it's time for me to lie down and have a old man style nap and recharge my mojo so I can bounce back tomorrow with boundless amounts of energy. So I'll see you all again tomorrow, but thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.